Hi, everyone. Julia here recording this. What is the date, Cheryl? May
Oh,
13th, May 13th,
yeah.
2024. And I gave it away. I'm here with the great Cheryl Bailey. And yeah, we don't even know what we're going to talk about, but we thought we'd get on here. And I haven't really been doing that many videos because I would always talk about shortcomings that we all have, and how to deal with them. And now I realize all these shortcomings are due to negative identities. And if you get rid of the negative identities, then you don't really have too many shortcomings. So, and you also have a different perspective about what a shortcoming is, right? Because then you can view other people and go, oh, well, that's not really that person. That's just their negative identity coming through right now. So it just
Yes.
changes your whole perspective when you view things that way. And of course, that all comes through the Mace Energy Method training. And the identity definition wasn't uh, first discovered by John Mace. Other people had used that whole thing about identities, right? And a lot of us have heard that. We get these identities and they cling to us, and we got to get rid of them. But man, it really does describe things, and it's just amazing that you're able to get rid of them so quickly with the Mace Energy Method. And Cheryl's had a session, and what did you think, Cheryl?
Well, Julia, you've been on this journey for a long time of, you know, finding health and healing in an insane world that we live in. And I think that you have just really discovered something here. Um, because it just took like an hour of work and and it's so easy. It's not traumatic. You don't have to bring up old history or any of that stuff. And we did it last week, and I've had huge results from just this one little piece of interaction that I had with Julia. And it reminds me of, we need another person to deal with this stuff so that we can it just creates this magic to where you can let those things drop away and they just fall away and then they're gone. So I think, Julia, you have come across the truth in that we create these identities to deal with the world outside, and then we have our own inner identity, and it kind of goes back to that, how we all have our own unique perspective here. And so we have our own unique perspective, and then when we go out and deal with the world, we're dealing with all these different perspectives. And so it's almost like we pick up you know this identity and put it on like a shirt and clothes. You put it on to deal with that situation. And it's really interesting. I don't know a whole lot about these identities. I didn't even know I had any until we did that work. But it makes sense that, well, you've got two different perspectives. Well, how are you going to interact with each other? Well, you're going to learn about that person, and then you're going to build that identity around that so that you can, come to a common ground with the other person. But that's not really who you are. It's just who you are when you're dealing and interacting with that person. Right?
Exactly. You have identities for everything. You have, like when I was a teacher, I had my teacher identity. And when I came home, I had my identity with my dogs. And I had my identity that when I interacted with my husband, all those different things. And it's funny that you mentioned that thing. It's like putting clothes on because Cherie, that's how she it kind of dawned on her too. She's the director of Mace Energy Method now. And she said that she would watch the kids when they were playing, like at a daycare or whatever, or at school. And, they play the roles and then they stop. There'd be a new role, and they would just switch and they turn it on and off, on and off. And she said one night she just came home and just said, I'm gonna take this identity off. I'm gonna take this identity off. And then she was just there, and got in this real peaceful meditative phase when she just kind of just removed all of them, both the positive and the negative identities, because we need the positive identities. They're the ones that allow us to drive our car without having to, drive like we did the first time we drove, every time we drive, and
Right.
all kinds of things that we do to navigate this reality, just like we need this body. But the negative identities don't do anything but bog us down, make us miserable, and make everyone around us miserable. And yeah,
Well, then it
so yeah,
attracts others that have that same negative identity to us, right?
right. Well, and
So,
yeah,
so
and
as it comes in resonance, and then you resonate with each other, and then there it is again. It's like the same old pattern, just looping and looping, and it's a negative thing, and it's not, nothing good comes from it.
right. And
But
every time
back
you
in
get
the day,
triggered, it just strengthens the negative identity every time you get triggered. So eventually they can just take over. So if you can
right?
nip and get rid of them, then bam, you're just back in control again, and your life's just flowing and easy, and it's amazing.
It is amazing. And what I found really interesting is I come across something. It was a psychologist talking about something, and they were talking about how, back in the day, they knew that when they went out into the world, it was a theater, and they knew that they had different identities for different things. And it was just like a play, where they would go out into the world and they'd put that mask on, right? The mask they show the world. And they knew, and then when they went home, they knew that those were identities, and they took them on and off like clothes, but they knew it. And I think that's part of the problem with what we've got going on right now is we don't know that anymore. We don't know that we're doing this. So when we get out into the world and then we're looking at each other and interacting with each other through these identities, and we've forgotten that those are identities, and we think that's who they are and who we are, but it's not. And it doesn't mean that you're hiding or being fake or any of that thing. Everybody does this. We all have the identities within us, and it's how we interact with the world. Like Julia said, it's how we don't have to relearn how to drive a car every time we get in one.
Exactly. Yeah. You're so right about all of that. And I forgot what I was going to say. I got distracted. My
Well,
nephew
I
came in.
I think that the technique that you come across here is so powerful, and there's nowhere have I read, oh well, we've got these identities, and we use we're like actors and actresses out in the world, and and if you think that's who you are, and that's
Then you, yeah,
it,
you start feeling guilty because you realize some of your negative identities are negative. You see that, you notice that, you don't like the way you are necessarily. So you
yeah, in
turn
certain
you turn in
situations.
on yourself, and you keep doing that, and you just keep building up that negative energy ridge and giving them more power, and you were saying just knowing about it, like back in the day they knew about it, and there's so much power in just knowing that
Yes,
fact right there, and then to work
yes.
with it. Wow.
Just knowing. And that way, but other people, even though you're out and you're in one of your positive identities, right? And that other person, because we don't know this anymore, most people don't, that well, they think that's you. Well, it's not you. It's it's how you how you interact with the world. And it's not the you way down in there that has all the fears and all of that stuff, because to interact with other people, you have to try to set that aside, you know and we all come to it with, I come to the table with all of my fears, all of my negative identities. That other person comes to the table with all of that, and we can sense that underneath it, because we're sensing creatures. We can sense it, but we can't really put our finger on what's going on there. And so then that's going to bring up some fear, right? So, and then the fear comes up into that. It's like, I need to just be really still here because I don't know what's going to happen next, and I don't know what's going on, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, because there's that whole underlying resonance thing, that you're resonating with people that have the common negative identities, aka fears, because they're really one and the same thing. And yeah, that's a whole nother aspect that's going on there, and probably amplifies things. And that's that comes up in the relationship repair part of Mace Energy Method, is you know just getting to the crux of these types of people that you get triggered by, because it's usually a type of person, and then you can get rid of that negative identity that reacts to that type of person, and then going forward, you'll respond to that type of person instead of getting triggered by them. And again, just having that knowledge of going, oh, well, that's not really who they are. That's an identity coming through. And when we
Right.
get to the real us, the real you, that's just this spiritual energy being, that has
Yeah. Yeah.
enthusiasm, honesty, integrity, happiness. That's who we really are. And that's who we can always be around people we're comfortable with. But of course, if we're out shopping, we have to have our shopper identity going, or if we have our profession, we have those different things. But we've all seen those people who they're one person at home, they're another person at work, they're another person when they're out with their friends. So it's all just different identities. And then we have the real us. This is awesome spiritual being that's a really good, positive, well-adjusted being. We just got to get back to it.
Exactly. And it follows the lines of, spiritual alchemy and the evolution of your consciousness and getting back to who you really are, which is energy. And it's one or the other. It's you're flowing in a love energy, or you're flowing in a fear energy, in all places in between. And as you work through some of these negative identities and they stop interacting with your world every day, well, then that's going to reduce the fear load, whatever you want to call it. And then it's going to increase your capacity to love others and just, be there in a loving vibration and flow that energy instead of all these other energies that's going on that you're not even aware of.
Right. And that love is the energy that we naturally are. So the fears are the negative identities that we piled on top of that. So when you get rid of that, all that's left is who we really are, which is that love frequency, that love vibration. And
Yeah, it
it's
is.
a point too, because Jerry Marcinski, who's the one who brought this to my attention and who's brought it to worldwide attention, this Mace Energy Method in general, he worked in psychiatric hospitals and prisons for over 40 years, and nothing worked with really any of the mental illnesses because they either did the talk psychotherapy and made them relive the trauma and create more negative identities, or they just drug them,
Right.
just drug people. And neither of those are effective methods at all. So when
No.
he just read the book and just tried little things, little techniques that he learned about by reading John Mace's book, Causism, and was having success with that. And then he met Cherie Hatfield, who trained like 20 years ago to do this. She's been doing it for 20 years, and took the training, and he's just floored by it. He says it works with every single mental illness, so to speak, and even with schizophrenia, which nothing really works with them at all. He's like the really, really extreme cases, they can't get enough focus, but even schizophrenics can get cured from this, not just symptoms relieved or whatever, or treated. So that's huge. And the fact that, and what he always was bringing out is that it's because it's an energy. Trauma causes these mental illnesses, and that all has to do with emotions, and emotions are energy. So we go back to the whole energy thing. So you have to treat it from an energy perspective. You can't treat an issue that's caused by energy being out of whack with chemicals, or with
Exactly.
you know, or
Yep.
with talking about it. You have to treat it energetically, and that's what Mace Energy Method does. It uses the spiritual energy being to work with the practitioner and the person, the body and the mind, and get this all worked out. So it's really ingenious, and anyone who ever goes through the practitioner training, they'll see how involved it is and how much detail went into the discovery and refinement of this process. It's not just something somebody thought up overnight and thrown out there. And it's got 28 years of, you know, testimonials and, just like I said, refinement, and, you know, it's out there and it's great. We finally got it, and I'm so glad.
You've been on this journey, to find out, what it's all about and what's going on here. And I think that, you stuck with it for so long that you finally got to the real crux of the situation of what's going on with all of us. I think that this, if this could go, more mainstream, it could just change so many lives. Because I tell you what, after, I had my session, it was just huge changes, just left and right. And then I went into a situation where I normally, where it's just difficult, and I went into that situation, with I was just neutral and open to the experiences to come. And so I'm kind of I wasn't expecting the same old, same old. I was open to what would happen, right? And so I walk up and the whole dynamic was completely different. I was shocked, to be honest. I really was. And and we ended up having the best time. It was this, and I try not to regret things, but it's like, wow, if we'd had this, 10 years ago, we could have had all these great experiences with each other. But I know that we're here to evolve and grow. And that's what everybody has done. Everybody had work to do, and we've all been working on it and doing it. And now I just want to sign everybody up. You need to go talk to Julia for a minute, because these things, that are glitching out everybody, is all it is just these identities that we're not aware of anymore, that they just play out. And then you're like, oh, it's same old, same old. There's that pattern. It's just going to do it again. Yeah. It's like, you know, but regret's not good. And I think just being happy that there's something new on the scene that's going to really help a lot of people. So I would, I want to work and, put out some podcasts, and maybe we can do some group stuff together, and just get the word out there. And, just one person at a time, until it kind of takes off. Because I mean, it really, really does. It helps you, forgive others. It helps you forgive yourself. Because, we say, oh, we all have these good parts about us. We all have these bad parts about us. And we feel a little bad about the bad parts, because those do hurt people, right? So we have all this stuff, and then we've got this guilt and shame on top of all that, and to be able to just get rid of all that and then just interact in this love space, it's just a completely different vibe, and it's just so much better. And everybody thrives in this vibe, because there's not any, oh, I need to watch out. And then you understand that that's not them. They're just reacting to their past, in a past identity that is either fearful or whatever. It's a negative identity. That's not who they really are at the core, because we instinctively know that, right? Because we know at a deep level that we're all connected together. Well, some people do. And a lot of people have experienced love, and they know that it's way different than going into a space where there's all these, dynamics and different energies going on. They know that there's something else because they've experienced it. And it's like, why can't this happen now? Well, maybe it'll happen next time. Well, then it never happens, because the negative identities are still there. So it's going to just keep doing the same thing. So, yeah.
Exactly. And they even get stronger and stronger. So yep.
Yeah.
And it gets you to the point where you just live in the now, you don't worry about the future, you don't consider the past. You just get in that now, and relish in how awesome everything is, and what the potential is.
Yeah. And it feels a lot better when you're kind of at ground zero, at your base, who you are, than, walking around with an identity on and you don't know it, because when you're walking around with an identity activated, well, it's very shallow. It doesn't have the depth that your whole being has, all, in it. It's just the surfacey little, it's like veneer, right? Oh,
I
did
had
we lose?
my mic muted. Sorry about that. But yeah, totally. Yep.
Yeah. So it's surfacey and it's veneer, when we all really want to just, the people that we care about, we want to just give them a big hug, and then we see a scowl on their face or something that's happening, and we're like, oh, they're upset at me, right? So it's like a double confusion going on. Oh, they're upset at me, and then you start trying to think of, well, what happened? What did I do? And then you keep going into that, and then next thing you realize, it's like, oh, wait a minute. maybe they've just got indigestion, you know?
Or you just go, oh yeah, that's one of their negative identities. I know that one. I'll just, respond this way. And you learn to respond instead of react. And then,
Right.
eventually, if enough people learn this and know about it, because,
Yeah.
like I said, Jerry Marzinski just read the book and tried a couple of the techniques. So it is that simplistic. You just need that one other person. But can you imagine the world where somebody's, negative identity pops up and their friends like, okay, close your eyes, really feel it, really experience it until you get an image.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and even with
Oh,
children, like
I'm feeling
if
negative
children
and
knew how to do that little process on each other, and they're having trouble on the playground, they could help each other, because you just have to have that other person and a little bit of focus. And yeah, it's
yeah,
so simple, but it's so powerful.
it is. It is. It's so powerful. And I know that it is because I've been interacting with my little sister for 60 years, right? Well, not 60 years. She's younger than me, but a long, long time. And my little sister was, she was kind of like my baby, so there was a lot of stuff going on there. And so she has mixed feelings of me, she sees me as one of her caregivers, but she also has a mother who is her mother. And I'm sure all of that was, quite confusing for her. And I understood why she was, relating in that situation the way she was. I understood. So I just kind of would, just step back and kind of, just let it be and try to love her where I could. And when I walked up, it was just a completely different vibe. I walked up and I sat down out there, and then my little sister walked up and sat right next to me. She picks up my hand. She's sitting there holding my hand, and then she leans her head on my shoulder, and I'm like, who is this? And it wasn't her. Nothing changed in her. I just wasn't walking around with that identity of self-protection, right? It felt open to her again, but like back when we were little kids. And I felt more open. And so she was able to come in and not feel, threatened or, oh, I might be rejected, because, there was a space there where it was like, okay, we're grown-ups here, but we're really not, we're just beings in this place where we come to grow and learn. And it was just it was such a good experience, and there was a closeness there that wasn't able to be there because of both of our different identities. And I it was just so good, Julia, so I thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's
I'm
awesome.
still
That's a
buzzing
great
off of our.
story. And John Avery had a similar story about a client that he had, and she went to a family reunion, and her mom just came up to her and hugged her, and she said, "My mom never hugs me, never ever." So it was the same kind of thing. They just see that it's the real you there, and everyone
Yeah.
loves the real you. Because it's them too. We're all that same thing. That you know.
Yeah. But when you're afraid, rightfully so, right? You've had things have happened that scared you. And, but when you have that fear, well, people can't open up to you. When that fear's there, they can't do that because it makes them scared too, because they just get into your vibe, and then that now you're both there, right? It's like then both people are going into defense mode and protective mode, because we have to have, you know, if we don't feel safe, we're going into defense mode. That's where we're going, right? That
Yep.
safety is important.
Right. And, it's a negative identity that's making us feel unsafe because nothing can really happen to us.
Right. I know. It's it's oh, it's just, it's just been a big misunderstanding. It
Right.
really
We just,
has. It really has. It's all been just a big misunderstanding on our part of not understanding what is taking place. And then, and then when we get into those interactions, and then it's just like, see, that's how they always are. That's just who they are. So I just have to deal with that. That's not what's going on. That's not who they are. It's that,
Right,
that's
isn't
just
that
a veneer
such a
they've got
profound
on.
revelation? Go, no, that's not them, and it changes everything because you used to think, "That bitch," now you're like, "Oh my goodness, there's that negative identity of hers again, poor thing." You have a totally different perspective.
Yeah, and when they've got a negative identity, out on the surface and interacting with everything, that's not fun. And it's not fun for them either because they're getting negativity back, right? So it's almost like if you can just switch to compassion, it's like, oh, that's that negative identity. That's uncomfortable, and that's really has nothing to do with me. That's just that, uh, that identity there, and that's not who they really are, and understanding that, then you can let them off the hook and you can let yourself off the hook, right? Okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's just we've got this miscommunication, this misunderstanding going on here. Yeah, because it also, these identities, when we go out and we interact through these identities, it also is part of your perception of what's happening, right? And so it's throwing your perception off of what's really going on. But if we could all get to the same page and just be who we are without these identities, taking over our avatar while we're out doing stuff, well, then it all comes back to, that we're all spiritual beings here on, in these avatars on a sojourn, right? And you can let go of all of that, you know, well, that jerk over there did this to me, and that one over there did this, and that one did that, and you can just let go of all of it, right? Because now well, that's not who they are. They're that's just a perception that they're in. It's skewed. Yeah, because the whole world is not bad. All people are not bad. That's not how it works. We all have this, deeper
It's the
core within
opposite.
us.
All people are good, but
Yeah.
they get bombarded with these negative identities and they seem bad. But it's really the
Yes.
negative identities. And you get enough of the negative identities and you get them strong enough, then you get negative attachments, right? It gets a little more extreme, and that's when it gets into the schizophrenic stage and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, you know,
And it just keeps going on ad nauseum, and nobody's
right.
understanding what's happening there, and it's really, I think that's part of our journey and growth here is to figure this stuff out and then move from that paradigm of, well, when you're standing there looking at somebody, that's who they are, to going into another paradigm of, well, that's probably an identity that they're interacting with me with. Doesn't mean it's not them. It just means that that's just part of them, and it's not the whole being that they are. And so that would just change everything and how we interact with each other, because then we would walk up to the table and see what's going on. And then if someone's in a negative identity, we wouldn't say, oh, that person's bad. You just look at, well, they're feeling threatened, so they feel a need to defend themselves right now, and it's just an identity. That's not who they are. And then interacting with them from that space of, oh, okay, that's not who they are. And even though and then you understand what's going on too, so you can, you could walk up to them and be kind and caring towards them, even though they're in a negative identity, because it changes your perspective of what's going on.
Right. And you can stay in a calm state and you'll know how to respond.
Yes,
The response might be to leave that person alone, or it might be to give them a hug or whatever, but you'll be in that calm state and you won't be reacting from a negative identity. So you'll respond with what's right for you. And that's huge. That's huge instead of just reacting, getting triggered or whatever. So,
exactly. Exactly. Well, Julie, I think you knocked it out of the park. And, the quintessential, finding knowledge and all of the work that you've done to get drill down into all of this work you've done. It's probably been lifelong, hasn't it?
well, no, it's really only been not that long because I spent most of my life partying. I had my quota though. People are like, you don't drink? I'm like, no, I had my quota. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really, really like in my 50s, I was like, all right, I got to settle down because I was married and got divorced at 40. So I had my promiscuous years between like 40 and 50. So then I was like, all right, I can't keep doing this. And just little by little things happen, And I think, we come here with a task, with lessons to learn, and we get
Yeah,
guided in that direction. And all those years of depression and addiction and all those kinds of things was a lot of lessons, and this teaches gives you a lot of empathy. And yeah, so, and I know you and I went through similar childhoods and things like that. We even have a Barbara and a Donna in our families, immediate family. It's just so many similarities. So yeah, we're here on this path and to find these lessons, and I finally got there. But yeah, I really think this is it. I think it's the time to get this out there because, like you said, even just knowing that fact about other people, and there are modalities that's all they go by. They're like, well, you know about it now, so you'll never deal with that again. And that's one of the things, like these negative identities. Once we discreate them, we know about them after that, so we won't recreate them again. We won't create them
right.
again. So we won't
Then you
bring
know
those
about
back
them.
again.
Yeah.
Right,
You know.
right.
Oh,
And
I know
and
this one.
you do the process to discreate them, because there are other modalities where you just know about them, but they come back, they come back, they come back. But with this, you get rid of them for good, and that
Yes.
is huge.
And that's true. I mean, once I saw it, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? And once I saw it, I went, "Oh my gosh, that's how I interact with the world," you know? And that's that's just going to bring more of that to me. And that's where, people talk about, well, my worst fear came true. And it's because of your vibration. When you're in an identity, this is all energetic and vibration. So when you're in a negative identity, you're putting out a negative vibe. Well, when you go out into the world, well, it's going to resonate with you and bring that right to you, right?
Yep, exactly.
And but in a way, it's good it works out that way because then it gives you a chance to see, oh, wait a minute, this this is doing this because of this, not because I'm just unlucky or something like that. There's a reason that's what's happening is happening. And I think, I agree with you, Julia. I think that we all come here with a life path, and we come here and we come here to grow and evolve. And but I also think that, after once we get some of that under our belt and we start getting some traction and getting done what we came here to do, then we start having these things, show up in our reality, like this method that you found that can just really speed you up in your growth and just, finally get you to where you were trying to go in the first place. Um, and I'm really glad to be at this part because I'm really, really looking forward to, you know, the world being less complicated.
Yeah, it simplifies everything, doesn't it? Just makes it so simple.
It
And yet,
does. It went into a simple.
you know it's true because you just know truth, right? You have that innate knowing.
Yeah,
And
you
yeah,
can feel it. You can feel it. So how are we going to get the word out there? Well, we're doing it right now this way.
yep.
And
And yeah, and I got a interview scheduled with Jerry and Cherie in July.
uh-huh.
To get up like at midnight for it because it's Australia, the US, and Portugal all trying to meet at the same time.
Oh
So
goodness.
that should, and Jerry Marzinski's really getting word out. So, and it's very reasonable. It only takes a couple of hours and it's only a couple of $100. And what most people spend on doing their healing work, you look like at a Joe Dispenza event or whatever. I don't know. He charges a fortune just to go sit in his audience, and then people still aren't fixed because they still have all their negative identities.
Right.
Mhm. And
Well,
of
that's why
course,
nothing
me,
works.
exactly. All these other things are great and they work short term, some of
Yeah.
them, but none
Yeah.
of them last. And I won't turn anyone away, but I still got to pay off my training. And it's an investment. It's an energy exchange, and boy, is it worth it ever. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean,
for
I
me,
I don't see any problem with, when you're working out in the world and it's you give energy and then it comes back. That's the flow of energy. It's what it's supposed to do. We have to have that flow of energy, because we have to do things in life. We have to live. We have to, move around. We have to have spaces we live in. We have to have all those things in place to be able to function in this world. And I don't see any problem with, you're giving your time and energy. Well, that's an exchange. And so I don't, and you know what? I have no problem, paying for Julia to help out, because the reason is because it changed everything, and I was able to do things I've never been able to do before. And so I knew when I left that situation, I went, that happened because of the work I did with Julia, because I've experienced those situations for 50 years. And that experience wasn't anything like all the rest of them. The only thing that I've changed is what I did with Julia. That's the only thing I did. So that's when I knew. But I like to experiment. When I try something new, I like to do experiments. And I think Tom calls it tasting the pudding. Taste the pudding. What are you getting back? What experience is coming back to you? Because that is your vibration you're putting out there. And so what's coming back? And when I saw what came back, it was completely foreign to me too. And there was kind of a thing going on where I really didn't know, because it was so different. I really didn't know which way to go. And I was like, well, okay, we're doing this now. Well, okay. Oh yeah. Okay. You want to sit next to me and hold my hand? Well, this feels nice. And then my whole family was sitting in a circle, and then my little sister put a song on, and then everybody started singing this song. And when I think about it, I get goosebumps, because the vibration of it felt so good, and everybody felt good in it, and it's like, okay, this isn't normal. What's going on? Everybody left that interaction just flying high, and then everybody got in on the text and was posting the pictures from it and talking about it. And one thing I saw that was really interesting is everybody had pictures in their phone of getting two people that were interacting with each other, just laughing. And and you could see it. It was just a gut laugh, And so there was a picture of me and my brother laughing real hard, a picture of me, my brother and my sister laughing. There was a picture of me and my mom cracking up. And those are just, we don't usually have those images after these get-togethers. We usually have pictures of people there together that are in a bit of stress, right? so
Right.
so I knew as I left that situation, it's like, okay, something very different just happened here, because it was very obvious. And I just want to tell you, I appreciate you, Julie, for doing
Wow.
the work and finding this method, because it actually works. And
Wow.
that's the thing about therapy. You go to therapy, you're opening up all of this history, you're looking at this and that, and you're not, it's almost like it's making you feel worse, and then the interactions are, you go out in the world, it's the same, and everybody's tried something, because we all want to feel better, because this place has a lot going on in it, and it can make you feel bad real easy, and so it's like, my goodness, we all just want to feel better. We've all been through a lot, and we just want to feel better. And we have such a vibration of fear going on right now that it's gotten even heavier to interact with each other. And that's why I love the computer, because we can still interact and, maybe come to common ground. And boy, if we can just get this out there, and I think I want to learn how to do it too. And that way, I can help those around me, and Julie's helping everybody around her, and, just get a big, just
Yeah.
get a
Just
whole
start the wave.
community
Start
going.
the wave. Yep. Yep. And Jerry Marzinski's already getting it started. He's already like, he's the reason I became a practitioner, and several other people as well. So we're getting it there. We're getting it there, and it's great. I'm glad you shared all this. And I hadn't really talked to Cheryl till right before this podcast about, her results after our follow up. So this is great news to me. It's so awesome. And, I've had two other people that I work with, and they've had good results as well. And so, yeah, things are looking
Yep.
good with this guy. So,
Oh, it's looking good.
Mace
Yeah.
Energy Method, look into it. And also, like Cheryl said, she might become a practitioner as well. And that's another thing. If people need a career, talked about it before. It's a great one. Like for Cheryl and I, we're in our retirement years, but it's still something we can do, help other people
Oh,
and
yeah.
keep the bills paid and all is well.
Oh, that's what I was going to say about, going to therapy and things like that. And then you go and you go and you go and you go and you're not getting anywhere really. You feel better in some ways and others you don't. And, you have to, and then it's just expensive and this and that. This method only takes 1 or 2. It was like an hour and a half, 2 hours, right? And I mean, you get in there and really, I feel like I've gotten like 10 years of work done in 3 hours. So it's fast. And that's what was really, it's going to take, a minute to, for people to wrap their mind around that you can get a lot better just in a couple of hours and your whole world in reality changes because your vibration changes. And
Right? It sounds too good to be true, and people
it
have been
does.
saying that for 28 years now, and but it is. It is what it is. It's effective. It works, and I don't know what you people are waiting for. Get yourself a Mace Energy Method session. Change your life. And
Go do it. It really works. I'm speaking from experience. It really worked. And I was open. It's like, I'll try it, Julia. And Julie was just so excited about it, and her discovery of it. And I was like, well, and then she offered to, hey, let's do a session. Let's see what you think. And I was, I came into it open and let's see what happens. And I didn't see the results right away because I wasn't going out in the world interacting. I had other stuff that I was doing. But as soon as I went out and started interacting in the world, it was different. Oh, and here's another experience that I had right after I didn't have much time. It's only been what, a week or 10 days or something. But when I did go out into the world, I went to the grocery store. I got my buggy and I'm walking around. And I mean, people were literally bumping into me. I would walk and then this little boy come up. It was like people were just drawn to me. And I think that that's why, because my vibration wasn't one of defensiveness and protective mode of protecting my safety. It was one of, I was just there, I was just bopping
you
around
were
and I
being
didn't
the
have
real
this.
you. You were just being you. That's
Yeah,
what.
it was just the real me walking around. Here we are, and we're all in this together. And everybody in the store was acting different. Even when I went up to pay for my groceries, I got into this long conversation with the cashier. And then we're trying to hurry up and get the conversation done before it's time for me to, walk off with my groceries so she can deal with the next person behind me. And she just wanted to interact with me. She just wanted to talk. Who are you? Why do you feel so good? And I could sense it that she was just really into whatever it was I was doing. So I just noticed it and it was like, oh, that was odd. And then, I got in my car and I was thinking about it. It's like, that was really odd. It's like, oh, wait a minute. That session I had with Julia, maybe this is what's going on. That's really amazing that it works that well, that fast. So yeah, I would encourage anyone, and I have real data. I've gone out, I've looked at it. I did the sessions with Julia. I looked at it. What was the results of it? I looked at my experiences that were coming back and they were different. So anytime something changes, what happens out in my reality, I know because I'm focused there and I'm paying attention to what's going on. So yeah, I got a whole different experiences from just a week ago of working with Julia. So my hat's off, Julia. It's awesome. I love the Mace method. Get rid of those negative identities. They're like, it's like you're out there in the world walking around with all these anchors dragging you down. That's what it is, really. And
Exactly. They zap your energy. They hold up your
yes,
energy. You have more energy once you get rid of them. You just have more energy
yes,
in general.
they're taxing. It's so, it's a lot of energy. You're just, you know, it just drains your energy. Then you don't really feel like doing anything, you know? It's like, I'm tired. It's like, oh, I must be getting older and that's it. No, that's not it because I know that's not it because I know what I'm capable of. I know what my potential is and what I can do. And I found all that out over this last year. I can do a lot more than what I thought I could. And So yeah, it's just all this, these negative identities, they zap your energy, number one. They cause your vibration to be wonky when you go out into the world. And then that's how I believe it, that the world is a mirror of your vibration. So that's what you're getting back, is what your vibration is doing. So to me, this is like the ultimate vibrational healing. It's like healing your vibration to the point to where when you go out, the energy that you're flowing through your being is completely different, and so you're just getting a completely different experience. And the strangest things were happening. I would be in a situation and something would happen and somebody'd say something, and the little kid would kick over the thing, and the next thing you know, everybody is just cracking up. So things like that was happening all over the place. I'm looking forward to getting back out there and doing stuff because it's been a lot of fun this last week. Julia, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Well,
All right, everybody.
everybody, go ahead, Julia.
Well, you can go ahead and then I'll do my closing.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. And I hope that this helps. And this is really good news. This is not, this isn't, oh, it's not just a good idea. It's something that actually works. And I would recommend it to everybody that's having trouble and trying to do the inner work and getting rid of your fears. Well, a lot of those fears are wrapped around these identities, that these masks that we put on. That's where they're all at. And so once you get rid of the negative identity, see, you're taking with that fear that goes with it. So to me, this is the fast track to getting rid of fear too. So I recommend it highly. Thank you, Julia. Appreciate everything you do.
You're welcome. And we didn't really intend for this to be an infomercial, but it is what it is. Because we didn't really know we were going to talk about, but I started off on that, and it's very exciting. I'm still excited. I discovered this back in, I think, December. Got in touch with Cherie in January, and I'm still super stoked about it because I'm so energized because I don't have these negative identities any longer. But
Well,
thanks
yeah.
everyone for listening. And I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Remember to stay focused on what you want. Help others if you can. And we'll talk to you next time. Anything else to say, Cheryl?
Y'all have a great day, and I hope you find this infomercial helpful. And it's not that. Julie and I really are excited for a reason, because this method works, and we both have been doing healing work on ourselves for at least the last 10 years, and we've been through a lot of tears, a lot of happiness, and we've gone through a lot in trying to get that work done within ourselves and going in and discovering, what's causing, these things and these dramas to play out in our lives. And we both have worked really hard to get to the bottom of that. And so that's why we're super excited about this, because we found the fast track to get this thing really back on the road and really moving in a really nice direction. So, that's the reason why we're here, is just to get the word out that there is an easier way to get this work done. And I'm so thankful that we're here and not back where we were 10 years ago.
That's for
So
sure.
yeah.
Woohoo!
Woohoo. Have a good day.
Ciao, ciao.